Welcome to another episode of Team Anywhere, where CEOs, leaders, and experts at building teams,
companies,
organizations,
and amazing cultures share how to lead from anywhere in the world. I'm your co-host on the East Coast, Ginny Bianco Mathis.
And I'm your co-host on the West Coast, Mitch Simon. And we invite you to join us to Team Anywhere. Today on the podcast, we have one of the best communications experts I've ever met. The best because his gift to the world is to strengthen your communication skills through easy tips that offer massive impact. Wanis Ruiz, founder of the Public Speaking Lab, shares tip after tip after tip that will make you a better leader, team member, presenter, and facilitator. This is not about communications theory. In this podcast, you enter into the speaking lab where you'll learn at least 10 tactics that will have your team perform at their best from anywhere. Hello, and welcome to another amazing episode of Team Anywhere. I'm your co-host, Mitch Simon, on the West Coast, and God, is it beautiful today. And I have my lovely co-host in a different part of the East Coast, Dr. Ginny Bianco Mathis. And today on the podcast, we have Wanis Ruiz, Senior Consultant at the Public Speaking Lab. Yvonne has been a major player in Canadian provincial government, as well as an entrepreneur, presenter, and teacher. So, Yvonne, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. And it was like music when you said my name, sir. You did that beautifully. It was absolutely perfect.
Thank you. Because if you look at
we practiced for the audience,
right?
We practiced
for sure. If you would look at Wanis Ruiz's name on a piece of paper, there's no way you're going to get it right. Okay, so Yvonne,
I like to make life difficult.
Yes, you do. Yvonne has an incredible story. He has incredible stories, but for the beginning now, how have the last 2 years been for you during this lovely, interesting time we're going through?
Well, it's funny because like many people who listen to the podcast, like us here, in March of 2020, all my business went away. It just disappeared. And it was like for like the foreseeable future. At that point, we had no idea.
Right.
But I'm always glass half full. So that's when I decided to be like, you know what? I've wanted a couple of months to just do other projects. And so I spent the time and I created a bunch of online courses on like Udemy and Skillshare and everything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll wait till the end and I'll tell you the link.
Okay. We will ask that.
Keep the listening audience. But yeah, and then I decided to let's just do that and see what happens. And it was a blessing in disguise, really, because I did these courses. I learned how to use these systems. I've created these kind of courses and they just live on their own now. That's always going to be there. And then out of nowhere, because of these courses, students from around the world be like, hey, Yvonne, listen, are you available to do a virtual workshop live? And I was like, why, yes, I am.
Actually.
As I lie in bed at 4 p.m. because I have nothing to do that day, I'm very available. I'm very available. And so what happened is it led to these great opportunities. So for example, after this, I'm going to quote unquote, this is good for audio, making quoting sounds.
Yes.
I'm going to teach in Quebec, which is on the other side of the country, for an hour.
Right.
And then I've taught in Argentina virtually. I've taught in India virtually. And this never would have happened without the quarantine.
Yeah. Well, great. It's lovely. And for those of you who haven't guessed, Yvonne is in Canada. He's actually in he's not in Quebec. He was in Quebec and he was in Toronto and now he's in Vancouver. And
is it my accent? Is it my accent? Is it giving me away?
It's a little bit. I mean, we did have Sharon on the podcast, and he has a wonderful.
He's got a big accent. I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. So, what is the Public Speaking Lab?
So the concept, the Public Speaking Lab is kind of the company I created because of the style in which I like to train and teach communication skills. So, for example, most people will give you ideas. I always joke, LinkedIn is full of people telling you how to live your life. There's lots of ideas out there, but there's very little execution. There's very little, let's do this in the moment and see what happens. Like adding a little bit of this and a little bit of that into a vial and watching the bubbles. Like Mentos and Coca-Cola. It's an experiment. So
don't try that at home, people.
You know what? Try it at home. Let's get weird. Let's go.
Okay, that's right. I'm sorry. It's a lab. Dude, try it at home. Just be careful out there.
So, essentially, here's the thing. And this is the thing I always say. It is not harder to keep people engaged virtually. It's just that virtually, I don't have to be polite. Because I'm just as bored. I can be just as bored in a meeting. But if we were, this is my phone, okay, right? If we were in a meeting in person and one of you were talking to me and I went like this, yeah, no, I'm listening for sure.
And
that's super rude.
So for those of us who are not seeing this podcast, explain what you're doing there.
I'm looking at my phone and like pretending that I'm looking at my phone. And if I did something like that when I was talking to the two of you, that would be super rude.
Right.
But here's the truth. Probably everyone listening to this, if you're on your computer, you definitely are on your email or you're on Facebook. I could put my phone and rest it on the laptop screen and no one would know.
True.
So I decided the idea of the public speaking lab is teaching tactics to see what happens in the moment, to see chemical reactions in the moment. So I will give people tactics to do virtually, and I watch the reactions. And then I note, and then I put the mirror up and say, you notice how I did this and this?
Okay, give us a tactic right now.
Absolutely. So one of the things I like to do is I will bounce between my slides and me, 70% me and 30% my slides. So I'm constantly jumping back and forth. And every time I do it, here's what you see. I'm going to look at the camera. Again, this is great audio, but you'll see, the being professional tuned out, but actually looking at my email face, that kind of.
Yes.
You will see people blink, sit up and go like, what just happened? Why did the visual change?
Right. Nice. Okay, good.
Because here's the thing. Presentations, communication is not things you listen to and it's not things you read. It is things you watch. So I change the visual constantly, jumping back in simple strategy, back and forth between slides. I did it on a Teams thing once, and people at the end are like, how did you do what's the function that makes you jump back and forth? And I'm like, the function is logging on an hour early and just sharing, not sharing until you get really good at it.
Yes. Very nice. Very nice.
All right. Marvelous. I'm going to give that a try.
Super easy.
So now I'm going to ask you another one. So as a communication specialist, and that's what you claim you are, a communication specialist, correct?
Wow, look at that. That's what you claim.
That's what you claim. Okay.
No, well, you're right. I should be able to back it up.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I say, if you have the courage to say, I'm a communication specialist, you got to keep people's attention. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to shut up. Where do you see most teams struggling these days in this hybrid virtual world?
So the question is in regards to like when you're tutoring virtually, what are like the things that is driving everyone crazy? What's making different? If I'm doing all the talking, how do I know anyone else is listening? The biggest thing I have noticed is people will say, we do these like hour-long meetings and we present all this information, but we have no idea if anyone retained any of it. And usually it's like, we'll have to repeat stuff over and over because, we covered that last week, but no one remembered it.
And that's so true.
And the reason is because everyone, while you were going talking McTalk, everybody else was checking their email because they're like, why are we even here? This could have been, or just give me the PowerPoint.
Right. So how do you end that? How do you end that pain and suffering?
And the simple, like, here's the thing. I want to change the world. Like I really want to, my book is called End Boring for a reason. Because I think there's too many good ideas lost to boredom. So how do you change it? Certainly we can't change every culture of meetings. It's just going to happen. People are going to have meetings. Let's have a meeting. If your superior is one of those meeting people, guess what? You'll never change it. You got to play the game. However, what if every 30 seconds or a minute, you had to get people to do something? Mm-hmm. And let's just suppose, for the sake of conversation, you only have a chat. What if every 30 seconds or a minute, I asked and got you to do different things in the chat? And here's some tactics. Number one, I can make you all say yes or no. Do you agree, disagree? Sure. But what if I had everyone find and share a link in the chat? Or tell me, what percentage of blank is this? Can you all report back real quick? Every time I do that, this is what happens. And again, beautiful audio, but you'll see people's faces go, they'll look over here and you'll see them like start searching and typing into
Yes.
Google and reporting
Yes.
back. And this is not just from my ideas. They're in the world of neuroscience. If you look and you watch brain activity, when we don't do something physically, after about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, our brain goes into like, is it time to sleep mode? And even just me doing this, can everyone give me a winky face? And you're like, okay, just looking at which one's winky again. That little moment of physical is enough to re-engage. Nice. And so the number one thing people need to do virtually is make sure that when you're talking, people are listening by getting them to do something really small, really easy, every 30 seconds to a minute, if you can. I know it's impossible sometimes, but as much as possible.
Wow. And let me just share, as an academic who has to, every week they click in, management skills. Okay. And yes, for sure. I know. I see them laughing. They're obviously watching a comedy show, on their phone or something while we're
totally
doing Zoom. It does mean, and this is where the leader comes in, I think, it does mean I have to learn new habits and incorporate them constantly. So even just the 3 things you've shared so far, if I just do that, right? And I've been doing some of them, but I haven't been doing them as frequently as you are saying, but with a little more creativity, I certainly could.
And may I throw one more tactic out real quick?
You can throw 7.
Yeah.
We're up for 7 more.
I'll give you one now, and then I'll make sure you keep count by the end. I'll give you 7.
All right.
But here's another simple little physical activity that always is a great re-engagement, even when you have nothing to ask them. Sometimes get everyone to turn their cameras on. Sometimes get everyone to turn their cameras off. In my sessions, I'm like, okay, for this one, everyone cameras off so you can just see me. I know I can spotlight myself, but everyone, the physical act, okay, camera off. They're searching. Boom. I'll talk for 10 minutes. All right, camera's back on.
Great idea.
There you go.
Okay, that was worth the whole podcast. All right, so I've got, give me a winky sign. I've got cameras on, cameras off. What else you got for us, Yvonne?
Jump back and forth between you and your slides. 70% you, 30% your slides, roughly.
Okay, that's 3. That's 3.
If you're on Teams, here's another fun. This only works on Teams. But when you're sharing your PowerPoint on Teams and you're running the presentation, push the B button and the whole screen will go black. And then push it again and it'll pop up again. So sometimes you can do something like this. So what does all this mean? Push the B button. The screen goes blank. Everyone goes. It's like, and then you keep talking, and it's like, so if we look at the second point, push B again, and the screen pops up.
Okay, I knew about the B button in PowerPoint, but I did not know about the B button in Teams. That is amazing.
It doesn't work when you're using Zoom and stuff like that, but on Teams it'll work for sure. Because I did it, and people were like, "Oh my God!" People right now are opening up their PowerPoint.
I know. It's like they're like, "Does it really work in Teams?" Wow, no, it does work in PowerPoint. When you're displaying a PowerPoint and when you're in the display mode, obviously, and you press B, it goes blank. Love that. Okay,
and you press W, it goes white.
What's that?
If you press W, it goes white.
Okay.
Did I just blow your mind, Mitch?
You're just blowing my mind. Yeah. I mean,
so sometimes if you want to use the screen also as a projector, you can, instead of exiting out, you can just push W. There you go.
Okay.
It's
I'm all about tactics. I'm all about physical, simple acts that you can do.
It's
so
great.
That you can start getting better right away.
Yeah, because everyone on the podcast has been in this situation where they're either presenting live or they're presenting something to their team or their boss. Or God, I'm fainting right now. I never knew about W. Okay, give us some more. Give us some more, Yvonne.
Wait, ask me questions and I'll give you more.
Okay, all right. So here's some more questions.
So you can inspire me. I'll give you tips based on stuff. Go ahead.
All right. What are, from your experience, and I know you've been presenting all over the world, what do you think is at the base of what a lot of people are needing right now? Like, what do they really need right now, and how can and for this, for this podcast, it's called Team Anywhere. It's not called Lead Anywhere. What could team members do to really address what people really need right now?
Yeah, I talk about this concept in one of my courses, and I want to ask you all both of you a question. What is, when you go to a conference or where you're in a meeting, what's the loudest part?
Well, the ones that I go to Brendan Burchard concerts, and it's because they operate concerts, is they throw up the volume of the sound.
Yeah.
When people start, then it gets quiet. Brendan speaks, and then Brendan will say, "Hey, everybody, why don't you talk to each other and work on this question?" And then it gets super loud again.
You touched on it, Mitch.
Right.
The beginning, when people are talking to each other. So if you go to conferences and stuff like that, the thing that we're missing virtually isn't information. It's the walking to the coffee station together. It's the going to the bathroom stuff together. Because think about it, the second people talk to each other, the whole room is awake.
Mm-hmm.
When we're listening to the information, we're like, yep. But the second it's over, did you know? Like everyone's like, "Woo, okay." So who's going for it? You want to get a coffee? And right away. So how do you replicate that virtually?
I'm going to ask you a question then, Yvonne. How do you I can't say that word. How do you you asked the question again.
So how do you replicate that virtually? How do you replicate that going to the, and there's one strategy that I think is really important that leaders should encourage their teams to do. And if a team person wants to take this in, is you need to create an environment for just the team that you are not a part of. In other words, you need to encourage your team to have a WhatsApp group that you don't belong to. That's just for like I'll give you one example. In a different life, I worked in pharmaceutical sales, and we had 2 WhatsApp groups. One with us and our manager that we use once, it's basically just the manager sending us messages. And one that would never stop, like message. Right. Constant, and here's the thing, it wasn't work. We were just sharing memes and stuff. We were just messing around, right? Sometimes we would complain to each other. Mm-hmm. And without that vent, your team starts really getting stagnating because they don't have that walking to the water cooler, let's go get a coffee together kind of stuff. They don't have those moments to vent and complain. So you should encourage your team to have a place where they can vent, complain, and have fun that you will never know about. You just have to a team needs an outlet for non-professional communication. Because here's the truth. Like if you've had a hard day at the office or whatever, and if you live with a significant other and they're like, "How's your day?" You're like, "Oh, I can't get into it because there's like 3 months of backstory here and I don't want to get," and that's why you say, "Fine." "Well, you don't look fine." "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." And then your marriage breaks up. And then
come on.
And then before you know it, you get tired because you start showing to work. You get late.
Yvonne has had some personal issues that he's just dealing with very well right now. Let's get back to some more questions. So back to more questions.
That was a fabulous
Yeah.
That's
you need a non-professional outlet for your team to communicate and vent.
Right.
I've got a question.
Sure.
What's happening is it's been over a year and teams are growing. Mm-hmm. And for many, we have those teams where they used to be together.
Yep.
And here comes this new person, and this new person has never been with this team physically. Mm-hmm. How can you create team cohesion in a virtual environment when you're adding new team members and these team members haven't really met in person? And because I was doing a class yesterday, and this person really felt like I'm new on the team, and I know I've got a lot of knowledge, but I'm afraid to share it. And I don't feel that comfortable because they, quote unquote, they know each other, but I don't know them. And how can you help
absolutely.
both from the veterans and from the rookies on that team?
Did you guys party a lot in high school?
I think Mitch did.
Sometimes you go to these parties with for example, I was dating a girl that went to a different high school. So I went to that high school party. I didn't know anybody. And that was really awkward. Or when you meet someone else's friends. If you meet all the friends all at once, it's very awkward.
Yeah.
But if you meet them one at a time, it's very easy.
Okay.
So one of the best ways to integrate new members, whether virtually or in person, is not meet the team, but set up one-on-ones with every person in the team. So if you had a team of 5, and I'm telling you, because then all of a sudden, here's what happens. In the context of, let's say, Ginny and I meeting, we break the ice for the first time. We now have a little inside joke. I meet Mitch the second time. We break the ice. Oh, you met Ginny? Did she talk to you about this? Boom, boom. We have an inside joke. So then when I meet the 3 of you, pre-established relationships are already there versus me trying to figure out relationships with everyone.
I love it. Oh my gosh.
That's just a great idea.
I know. You've just really sat back and analyzed how, like, your question about when is it loudest? It's when everyone's talking to one another. Yeah. So how do we replicate that? And your question was a genius question, Mitch, and he had an answer. It's just fabulous.
Because one of us here is a genius, and it's not I.
Jenny. But yes, I'm saying, listen.
I can connect the dots. Yeah.
We should, Jenny, we just in the future, we need to, hey, guest, could you just be quiet for just a moment? So, Jenny, we need to always record on Fridays because they're just more fun. Okay, Yvonne, you can go back to talking to us now.
The other reason you asked me this a callback to Public Speaking Lab is if you look in chemistry, a lot of really interesting reactions are simple. Salt and water. Do you know what I'm saying? Baking soda and vinegar. They're always very simple, but they cause crazy reactions. Everything I do is about simple tactics. You know, one of my frustrations when I was, kind of delving into this world of communication and leadership and what have you, was everyone tried to make something so complex. It's a 50-hour course. It's a 7-month program. It's 12 weeks long for 8 hours. And I was like, and it's really just one person talking to a group of people for like 8 hours and telling you how to live your life. But any good learning has to be simple so you can feel like you can apply it right away.
That is exactly.
That's me talking trash about the entire leadership.
Right. I really appreciate now why you've called it a lab. And I could really see that were I to be in your lab, I could see a lot of just some basic things that just make sense. And you're just, oh yeah, that's right. Meeting someone one-on-one that makes sense.
And for the listening audience, I'm more than just a pretty face, is what you're Just don't find me. Don't look me up. Don't look me up. Just trust me. Trust me.
He definitely has a face for radio. No, he's a good-looking guy. He's like, wait, Ginny, we've been getting a lot of good-looking guys on our show.
We have. This is weird.
I know. All right, good. That makes one of us on the show. So as a team leader, going back to another serious question, as a team leader, another struggle that a lot of team leaders have and team members have. I have to share this story.
Okay, go for it. Let's hear it.
Well, here's my question, and then I'm going to get into it. So, it's really that, the team leader has this struggle that everyone on his team is not really participating, or everyone on her team is not really participating. The thing is that people on the team have a struggle because they want to hear from, Mary and Bess and Juan and Bella and all these things.
Absolutely.
We had a really good workshop this week where someone said, you know what? The reason I'm struggling sharing my ideas is because I have an accent and I'm translating in my head and I always think about my accent. The most ironic thing was this woman doesn't have an accent. She had an accent.
But she's still self-conscious about it.
Still thought that she was, that she still had an accent. And we said to her, oh my gosh, if you were to share that with your team, you would make a major breakthrough. Anyways, I thought that was our best story of the week. And you heard it first here live on Team Anywhere.
Can I add
please?
If she were to share that with her team on an individual basis, it would be less stressful. Versus like, hi everyone, I'd like to start this meeting off by telling you how self-conscious I am.
Right.
Versus saying like, hey, do you got a quick second? Listen, for the meeting tomorrow, I just want you to know, one of the reasons I haven't spoken up is because I'm self-conscious of my accent, but I'm going to try tomorrow. So please bear with me and watch the support. You'll get individual. Done.
You know what? That is so good.
Now, something I do along the exact same lines is when I'm doing any kind of workshop or when I'm teaching a course in graduate school, everyone, you're on a team. And this is virtually.
Yeah.
And here are the members of your team, and you can post that. But they don't know what they have to do in this team. So I then sometimes say, well, listen, just break up in your team and discuss the following 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it has to do with the lesson and sometimes it doesn't. So now you're getting that walking in the hall or going out for the break.
Small teams, always.
And to your point, though, and yours, Mitch, about relating things and sharing with a smaller group, I have them do an exercise where something in your life you're proud of, something in your life that that was a big challenge. And hey, if team members, you've done this before because you've been in another one of my, choose something else. Well, and then talk about what relationships did you see there? Oh, we all went through moving to another country. We all are really embarrassed about X. We all have, our mothers are all the same, whatever. And so then with just 4 people, it gets to what you were saying. They come back, and they don't feel lonely anymore. They're more open now with the whole class, not just those 4. So it works in the same way.
Breakout rooms are so important.
Another venue.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Can I add, and I will answer that question. Can I add just a quick thing, Ginny? Going into breakout rooms is so effective, but the thing that you're doing that I'm not sure if you're even aware that you're doing it is that unless you have a deliverable that they have to present afterward, they won't engage.
No.
And here's the thing. They can't know who's going to go. So when you say, when we come back, I'm going to pick a few people. So no. What if it's me? Yeah. So deliverables with uncertainty is a great way to engage.
Totally.
Bravo.
Totally. Yeah.
I think like I'm done. Like I'm like, that is so good. That is so, because I thought I was good, Yvonne, but no, you're better. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. He's better.
He's better.
And that concludes this episode of Daily Affirmation for Yvonne.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, thank you so much. Maybe that's why it's Friday and we're
done.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah. I do have this question.
Sure.
Have you ever had the following situation where it's a leader who runs is really now getting into, I have to build, I really have to connect with my team in different ways. And he goes to you and says, help me out with this.
Yeah.
All right. Now I would say that's a continuous learning kind of person. He's heard of, or she, some of the things and really wants to get better. What about the leader who really needs you? All right. The meetings are horrible. Someone recommends that, and here's my question. Mm-hmm. They're not really into this. No, I'm just going to keep doing what I always do. Have you ever had to convince them? Have you ever had to bring them along? And then the light bulbs went on.
Yeah. So in regards to like, how do you help people that don't think there's a problem? And what happens if they're in charge?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So this is one of the things. And you asked me, how would you convince them? And when I was starting out, I remember I fell into this trap of I'd come in and try and teach a tactic and I'd have a very skeptical group of people, for example. And we'd go back and forth, well, what about this? What about this? And then one time I said, listen, before we get into this debate, can we just try it? And then you decide if it works. That's where tactics came from. And so what would happen is very quickly, I would say, let's just try it. Let's just have 3 people do it. Let's just bear with me. And then afterward, I just stopped having the debate because people could see it in action.
Totally.
So one of the best things that there's 2 things that I do. Number one, that's why you always have to make people do things. That's why it can't just be me trying to convince you about ideas. You have to give them a tactic and then you set the tactic. You try the tactic. And then the best part is if the tactics are really simple, right? It becomes very difficult to say no.
That's right.
If I say, listen, you got to change the complete way you turn around. You have to do meetings differently. You're going to be like, no, I'm not.
Very good point.
It says VP on my name tag.
Yeah, you got it.
But if you say, could you do this? Try seeing if you can get everyone to write in the chat every 3 minutes with something. They'll be like, just try it once. It becomes almost impossible to say no. A small ask with a time constraint. Try this just once or before the end of the week. And then it becomes impossible almost to say no.
Great.
Love it. Thank you.
Last question here on meetings. How can the leader make sure that everyone feels like they have an opportunity to speak when they're in a virtual meeting? How does he or she make it feel comfortable and actually get everyone to open up and share?
I'm going to share it. I think I mentioned that. Have either of you ever heard of the hippo?
No, tell us. I met the San Diego Zoo yesterday, so yeah, I know that hippo.
Let me give you 3 strategies, okay? None of which are mine. These are ideas that I try to put into execution.
Okay.
Everyone regurgitates everyone else's ideas, right? But no one can actually make it a tactic. So let me give you a tactic. The concept of the hippo is the highest paid person's opinion. So when you are in a meeting, at the end of the meeting, the ideas always go to the hippo's idea.
Yes, it does.
That's basically every meeting is useless because you already know what the decision is going to be. How do you combat this? And it's a very simple thing that no one does. The hippo always speaks last. Don't introduce, don't say anything, don't speak until you're the last person to speak. Because most leaders will start meetings saying, hey, we're here to do this. I want to decide whether we should do this. Here's what I'm thinking, da-da-da. What do you all think? And then there's dead silence. Because no one wants to be like, I had the opposite idea. I think you're wrong. However, if you go around the room and let everyone talk, and then in the last 5 minutes, then you can speak. You will actually get opinions and feedback and interesting ideas. And that's a concept of the hippo that's I heard from, I was listening on The Economist, and they talked about the hippo.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book called How Google Works. And it was basically a book about how Google spent, millions of dollars trying to identify the perfect team.
Yes.
And, they did like all the smart people. It was very Brave New World. They put all the smart people in and they all just argued. They put all the worst performers in and they didn't do anything. There was no relationship. And what they found, unless you benchmark Saturday Night Live and Lorne Michaels, because what they found is most important is an agreed set upon of rules. So, for example, Lorne Michaels established that every single person at the table has to speak. He would speak last. He would never say anything. He'd be like, John, what do you think about this? Okay. Sarah, I see you were reacting a little bit. Tell us what you're thinking. And if they would say, it's okay, it's no big deal. No, it's totally fine, please. And he would just wait. And over time, that everyone knew that they would all have to speak, and it created the environment of speaking.
Right.
So speak last. Make sure everyone, literally go around the room and establish the rules. But the best way as a leader, have one meeting to say, I want to establish the rules of our meetings from now on.
Yes.
I'm only going to insist on one rule, and that is that I speak last. That's it.
It's great.
I'm not going to introduce anything. And that's how you can get the meetings to be a bit more dynamic and get everyone to open up.
Great. So we have I think a last question here for you, Yvonne. You started a dance academy? What?
I'm coming.
What's that about?
You know what? Yeah. So I say that I juggle careers. Do you know what I mean? I say I juggle careers. And so I was in finance, I was in sales, I was in HR. I worked for the nonprofit sector. I wasn't good at any of it. I just didn't enjoy any of it.
I hope you're good at this one. You're good at the lab, right? You're good at the lab.
I hope so.
All right. Cool.
I hope so. I am available for private bookings if anyone wants.
Just saying.
Seriously. So what happened was I was doing these jobs and I was miserable, but I had all this money, but I had no friends and nothing to do. And so I started taking dance classes and I fell in love with salsa dancing and Latin dancing. So I started doing it. And then, I don't mean once a week classes. I mean, I was at work on YouTube watching salsa moves. Where will I dance tonight? Hey, what are you doing? Do you want to practice? Do you want to train? I was into it.
Let's go.
And so after a little while, I actually had someone say, hey, do you want to come and be a teacher at my studio?
Wow.
They saw my style. And so I did it. And I developed this kind of side hustle of teaching dancing. which allowed me the flexibility because I've for like 10, 15 years, I've now always had the side hustle of dancing as a fallback, as a place for a little bit of income. And funny thing, when you say communication expert, you got to back it up. I test out so many of these ideas in the real world without anyone knowing in my classes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how am I going to, everyone's really bored. How am I going to get them energized? You know what I mean? How am I going to do people's attention? All the tactics, and not just then. I have a standing challenge, and this has gotten me a job. This has literally gotten me a job where I say, give me a mic in a group right now. And I'll literally just give me a group. What's your organization? Give me 5 minutes to learn your organization. Tell me what to talk about, and I'll train people right now. And it's actually, and I've had 2 people challenge me on it, and and it's lifelong clients now.
Yeah, I love that.
And,
that's.
Yeah. And so the dancing is just something I do. And by the way, there's been a few occasions now, funny enough, where I have like a client in finance and a client in engineering. They found out I dance, and they're like, do you want to do a dance team building session? And I've started doing that now.
Oh, those are good. No, those are wonderful. I'm going to compliment you here.
You are good.
Yes. What
on his looks again? Are you going to go to his cool looks again?
Yeah, again.
See you in Florida, Jenny. I'm coming.
All right, Yvonne. What you have a natural skill in doing, just as you were telling us these different hacks, these different tools and techniques, you zero in on something in our brains that we can immediately relate to. I have the opposite problem. I'll talk too much, blah, blah, and then I'll finally get to the meat, and I'm working on it. But you'll just say, all right, talk last. And then you'll go through the explanation. That's just one of many examples. And I think that's what makes you rich on many levels in working with you. That's just been great. Thanks.
Oh my God, that's so sweet of you to say. Thank you, Jenny. And I appreciate that because I have literally, I literally say this in my workshops is like, I'm not here to teach you the rules. I'm here to teach you tools. Mm-hmm. And if there's not, if you can't apply a tool right away, if you have to take a 6 months course to learn how to use a screwdriver, then the screwdriver is a useless tool.
Exactly.
Right. But you can look at a screwdriver and just right away start using it. That's what I try and make my key learnings to be. So thank you, because I appreciate that, because I work really hard on it. So thank you.
Yep.
You're doing a good job. All right. How can our audience reach you?
Oh, certainly. So I've made it easy. publicspeakinglab.com/connect. And it has everything on it. It's basically like my version of Linktree, but it's just on my website, publicspeakinglab.com/connect. Right away, you'll see my new book, End Boring, available at fine Amazon locations everywhere.
Okay, give us a few moments. End Boring. What is that about? Obviously about ending boring, but tell us more about the book.
So essentially, the book is a compilation of all the tactics I've collected in terms of how to be a better speaker and communicator in like a reference guide. Forget like read from start to finish. It's more like, I need to make an opening. How do I make an opening? Here's 3 ways to do an opening, and then a bunch of examples. How do you do a key? How do you like summarize? How do you transition? Boom. Look in the transition chapter. Here's 3 ways to transition. So it's basically it's called End Boring, a tactical approach to public speaking, because it's all just tactics to become a better speaker. And I decided to make the book. Funny enough, because I was talking to a friend, I'm like, I want to make this book. And they're like, what's it about? I'm like, I'm just sick and tired of being bored all the time. I cannot sit through another meeting. Going and learning communication and being bored at your communication sessions. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's bad.
Getting worked up now. I'm sweating a bit. That's why I wear black.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, why don't you make a book about ending boring? And I was like,
yeah.
Right. That person did the same thing that I complimented you on.
Yeah.
Great.
Right? They just are.
Well, Yvonne, this has definitely not been boring. I think we definitely hit our 7 tactics plus. It's like 7+.
Yep.
I do think that Jenny, I think our questioning for the going forward is we need to ask everyone about their side hustle, because I think their side hustles are pretty darn interesting.
And notice they keep coming out now.
Oh, I know. Oscar's side hustle was he's in a rock band.
Right.
It's just really crazy. So
can I leave? I know. Sorry, Mitch. I want to interrupt with one last thing.
Absolutely.
You may have noticed in the bio I sent you. I didn't really send you a bio. Said here's some fun facts. And the reason because most of the time with bios, everyone waits patiently for the bio to be over before they start listening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're going to meet. They've done. And you're like, yep. Yeah, it was in the email, bro. Yeah. So what I found is when I get these introductions, the only part people would react to was, and he can teach you how to dance salsa. I want you to imagine a room of like maybe like 200 MBAs, and it was like, and he can teach you to dance salsa. Hey, and like,
hey, I know.
And I was like, that's what you care about. That's what you care about.
That's it.
So instead of bios, have people give you 3, 4, 5 fun facts, and make the last fact something that has nothing to do with their profession.
Right.
Love it. I love that. Yeah. No, I do that with Mitch. He's like blah 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 blah, has his degrees, and he does stand up comedy. Like what?
Yeah,
cool.
That's it. Yes.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Yvonne, coming to us on the West Coast of Canada, and I want to thank Dr. Ginny Bianco Mathis, coming to us from the East Coast in Florida today, and I'm the other part of the triangle here in San Diego. It's been so much fun. And have a great rest of the day, everybody. To our listeners, hope you've enjoyed. This has been a ton of fun. Please share this podcast with your friends and your colleagues, and give us a rating about how great we're doing, because that really helps other people get to the podcast, know that they're going to have a lot of fun here too. Yvonne, have a great day. Ginny, have a great one.
You're doing a great thing here, by the way. You're doing a great thing here, by the way. I've had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Hopefully we will get you back soon, and we'll see you all next time on our next episode of Team Anywhere.